Georgia losing to South Carolina 17-20 in double overtime. I was talking to some people from South Carolina after the game. They felt like this was one of the biggest wins in program history, which, if you think about it, South Carolina, it's one of the most stunning upsets, certainly in South Carolina, Georgia history, if not the history of the Carolina period. So being a 3.5 touchdown underdog, losing your starting quarterback who was the backup coming into the season. Outliers happen in sports all the time. This was an outlier, but when you turn the ball over 4 times, you deserve to lose, period. And that's all there is to it. Georgia never really, even though they wound up with 468 yards and they didn't allow Carolina to have more than 300 yards, South Carolina did what they needed to do when they needed to do it. And what I mean by that is that they got first downs kind of enough because they were playing with the lead the entire game from the bulk of the game. Carolina had the lead. They were up 7-3, and then Georgia got up 10-7, and then Carolina with the interception return for a touchdown. I think that was the first turnover of the game. Might have been the second, but then you had the overtime interception. You had the bad one was the fumble because Georgia had a bunch of momentum right there. And I think you do have to give South Carolina a lot of credit. They played well. They're not a good team. They upset someone. It happens. They're better than they've showed. I think some of the losses they've had have just been, horrid. But this happens in sports. You can ask Ohio State and Clemson about it. It happens all the time. No one is in this league. No one's won. No one's been undefeated in this league in a decade. So the concerning part is that you lost to a team as ragged as South Carolina is, and that's what they are. You can tell me what you think in the comments below. You can't have Jake Fromm throwing the ball 51 times. You can't have Jake Fromm getting sacked 3 times. You cannot have Jake Fromm with 3 interceptions. You can't have Jake Fromm with 1 fumble and 4 total turnovers. That's how teams get upset. This has not been a great 6 quarters or 8 quarters of football for Georgia here of late. And you still had a chance to win the thing in overtime. That was the wild part, was that you score with 1 minute and 48 seconds to go, which really felt like they could still win the game in regulation there. It just didn't work out. But Jake, this is the worst Jake Fromm's played. This is worse than LSU, right, Matt? It's not good, whatever it was. But the truth of the matter is that what is also true at the same time is he plays a bad game about once a year. They usually lose that game. This game doesn't change anything in terms of who will win the national championship, the SEC East, or the conference championship. So you just have to keep on playing. You've lost your margin for error, so that's gone. I don't think this is the season where margin for error is going to count anyway. I mean, it's looking like I can't imagine Clemson losing in the ACC. I shouldn't say that, but you get my point. Ohio State certainly looks like they'll win the Big Ten. Now Oklahoma just has to beat Texas. So it's hard to see that. I think this is the one year where you can't lose in the regular season. Maybe there's still more losses to come. You never know what college football will bring you, as today proved. Florida and LSU tonight. I did want to point out, and I'll make note of this at the end of the show now that I think about it. But Georgia just didn't play well today, period. And I thought South Carolina deserved to win. They were the better team. They're not the better program, but they were the better team today. Will and them. I think they outcoached Kirby too. I mean, I think if you look at when they decided to go for it, when they decided to punt, Georgia just was not crisp today. And I've not seen them play this bad since the Sugar Bowl. They've really been a good, solid, what's the word? Steady team, but there's no explosion. And people are like, well, what are you talking about? Where are the 25-yard plays? And you have one, it looks like one play for 33 yards from George Pickens was his long. Other than that, you don't have a lot of 20-yard plays. Carolina had a 46-yard catch and throw. They had a 58-yard, 53-yard interception. Those are big plays. Those are plays that are cheap touchdowns. That's what you need in sports. That's what you need in football, because they're such game-changing plays. And those 4 turnovers, the likes of which were not all on Jake Fromm, but he gets the blame for them, it just can't happen. I mean, the quarterback to center snap, that's basic. And then asking Rodrigo to, get the job done there right at the end, that's tough. That's a tough thing to ask a kid. That's a long kick, and Georgia's offense just didn't move the ball in that second overtime at all. Carolina was very good against Georgia's run. Carolina was very good, generally speaking, against Georgia on the line. I mean, 142 yards rushing for Carolina, 173 for Georgia. I don't know where all these insects are coming from. I do want to, I'm seeing some South Carolina people clip the hedges here right at the end, which is an interesting thing to witness. I do want to point out my shirt here. This is the Dress Down for Dogs ESP, and that's something that's a big deal in our family for sure. So it's a very good organization. I'm also going to put a link down here you can learn more about Extra Special People in Athens. Next week, Georgia and Kentucky, 20-17. Georgia losing in double overtime to the Gamecocks. A big win for Will Muschamp and company. But Georgia's season is still in front of it. And, if you want to freak out, you can. There was plenty of reason to do that today, but this season is still rolling along. You've not been eliminated from anything. You've not won anything yet either. Dean Legge from Sanford Stadium wrapping up South Carolina's 20-17 win over the Dogs.